Well, according to Gizmodo, our fascination with canon is killing the way we value stories. So never mind that fascination stems from whatever established rules and guidelines set forth by the creator or creators of said franchises. No, that fascination is killing the way we value stories. Yes, it's saying that we should turn our brains off and let whoever decides to alter existing canon do so, because who cares at this point? Who cares? Break the rules, break the lore, break the established guidelines. We're seeing that with Star Wars, we're seeing that with DC, we're seeing that with Marvel. It doesn't matter at this point. Anyway, hello, this is Mario Jade. I'm here with another video, and this was making the rounds yesterday on Twitter, to the point that even an employee of Lucasfilm, Matt Martin, decided to chime in an agreement with this article. And guess what? He's part of Lucasfilm's story group. Yes, the person part of a story group who's supposed to be making sure that canon is respected and those guidelines are followed, is saying that it's us, the customers, the lovers of the franchises, the ones that are going, wait a minute, no, this is not what Lucas wanted to do with Star Wars. No, we're at fault. We're at fault, not Lucasfilm, not DC, not Marvel. It's not the companies, it's not the entertainment industry's fault. No, it's our fault. But anyway, I'm going to get into this article and give my 2 cents on the intellectual mediocrity that this author is putting forth. Oh boy. As the pop culture we love becomes increasingly dominated by vast franchises of interconnected worlds and stories, so does it become dominated by one singular question from die-hard fans. Is the thing we're about to consume canon to everything else we've consumed before? Which is, why is that wrong? When we are told repeatedly with existing lore that here are the guidelines established, here is the framework that authors have to go into, or at least work around, work with, within the franchise, and we're saying it's an attitude that's turning our love of stories into some bizarre archival competition. So basically, we are wrong. We are wrong. We're going off of what we've been told for decades with existing franchises, but we're in the wrong. I cannot fathom this level of mediocrity in this article right now. Canon is not inherently a bad thing. Of course, it can provide structure to chaos, and it can provide a sense of not just continuity. Fuck yes! Yes! It provides a sense of continuity. So when we say it's breaking canon, we're saying it's breaking continuity. Because continuity is the guidelines that the creator sets forth. So if an author coming in to work within that franchise decides to deviate from it, it's breaking that continuity timeline. How hard is that? But stakes as that continuity progresses. Yes. Stakes. As in, if you completely disregard, ignore, or butcher the existing canon, those are the stakes. Because we, the consumer, we, the lover of the franchise, is going to come in. We're going to come in and go, hey, wait a minute. No, that's not how it's supposed to go. That's not how the creator decided it should go. That's not what the rules were established. The idea lets characters bear the impact of events on their journeys across not just one narrative, but many, allowing them to grow and change to the point that they might even be entirely different kinds of people compared to where we first met them. You are basically saying the fucking obvious at this point. Okay, bring in Lucas as an example for the original trilogy. Where we saw Luke, Leia, and Han at the beginning is not the same as where we saw them at the end. They grew. They matured. They evolved. They had character arcs. But again, it worked within the framework Lucas created. So whatever rules he established with the Force, with the way ships flew, with the way ships operated, like the holdover maneuver, remember that little gem from Last Jedi? Yes, it breaks canon. There's still plenty of room for variety, interpretation, and even a relatively strictly defined canon. Just look at Star Wars and the kinds of stories it can still tell, despite the mandate from upon high that anything told must fit into what's been established since Disney took over the franchise. Yes, it should, because Disney bought it from fucking Lucas. George Lucas created Star Wars. He's the one. He built up the world. He built up the lore. He is the one that basically said, here is the framework you work within. So yes, Disney, when they bought Star Wars, had the obligation to work within the canon Lucas established. So we, the consumers, the fans, when we come in and see the fucking butchering of the canon, and we complain, again, you're telling us it's our fault. So, Gizmodo, fuck you. But those stories benefit from the added weight of being definitive interpretations and events that flesh out an entire galaxy's worth of stories. Well, Disney, throughout the fucking expanded universe, they had 20 plus years of stories to tell from that. They could have had movies going into another 20 years if they had just been smart. But where canon, or rather our hunger for it, goes terribly wrong is when whether something matters or not becomes the base standard for how we consider a piece of media. It's not where it matters is if whether or not it breaks existing rules. I don't know what's so fucking hard for you to understand about that, Gizmodo. Oh, it's an attitude that has become predominant not just when the fandom circles itself, but in the media commentary that has developed around those fandoms and the blockbuster franchises that dominate our popular culture. Critics and fans alike are now less interested in actually interpreting a piece of media thematically or to engage with why they liked or disliked it, but instead to pick it apart and break it down to the base components of what are essentially its pure, unflinching facts. What we would love, let's say, about the sequel trilogy, the Disney Star Wars trilogy of films, we would love to be able to say for sure whether or not what we loved and what we didn't love about those films. But what we didn't love about those films goes into how they were butchering canon. How they completely disregarded the first 6 movies that came before it. Even if the expanded universe didn't exist, canon is the first 6 films, and Kathleen Kennedy, Bob Iger, J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, and the other ilk working now at Lucasfilm decided we're going to completely ignore everything that came before it and establish our own rules, even if those rules conflict with the rules George Lucas established. Guess what rules are, Gizmodo? Rules are canon. And they're breaking canon. So when we come in and we watch the films and we're like, no, that's not what was established in the first 6 films. Well, you're wrong, because you should be turning your brain off and actually judging the movie based on thematic approaches versus whether or not it completely shits on what came before it. Oh, Google Star Wars or the Marvel movies and you will likely see as many articles and videos with headlines like X confirms Y is canon, X questions answered by new media, or X things we learned about character Z in this new book, movie, TV show, as you will critical essays about these stories, if not more. Again, what the fuck is your point with this? Because yes, there are going to be articles like that, there are going to be videos like that, but I will give you a little help here, Gizmodo. A lot of these videos are because Disney needs a lot of supplemental material for us to be able to understand the fucking movies. Because they don't know how to tell a cohesive story from one movie to another movie to another movie without needing third-party media to help fill in the gaps that should not need to be filled in with that third-party media. So all those examples you're giving is because Disney, Lucasfilm, they cannot tell a story to save their lives at this point. And canon? What is canon? They don't care. And before someone accuses me of throwing stones in glass houses, yes, Gizmodo totally does this too. Like I said, discussing canon can be fun. It can add a lot to a series. But this craving for it, above all else, is a toxic attitude. The minute you use toxic in an article, you immediately lose any credibility you have. You are already losing it to begin with this shit you are putting forth and calling it journalism. But now that you're calling it a toxic attitude, Gizmodo, no, do you not fathom Can you not understand why people poke fun at media such as yourselves, garbage tier media, which you fall into? And why we don't take you seriously at all? Whenever we see an article from, let's say, your site or another site, we're like, oh, well, that's trash. You're right there. Not just to the way we talk about pieces of media from a critical perspective, but in fan circles as well. The hunger for facts above all else leads to things like filler episode. Yes! If it's a filler episode, if it doesn't lead to anything critical, if it doesn't lead to anything substantial, it's a fucking filler episode. It doesn't matter if it's Star Wars or anything else. Hell, I used to watch Walking Dead. Most of the seasons post season 2 or 3 were filled with a bunch of filler episodes that really you could have taken out and not affected the whole continuum whatsoever. Those are filler episodes. What's your point? Become a derogatory term for stories that don't advance the larger ongoing plot of a narrative or don't include some shocking new revelation that someone can add to a list. It doesn't matter if it doesn't have any shocking new revelation. All it has to do is progress the story. If it doesn't progress the story, if you can move that episode out, it's a fucking filler episode. And then, yes, it is a derogatory term because we don't want to watch filler episodes. We want to watch TV and movies that actually push the narrative forward. The overarching narrative. It's like basically taking a bunch of side quests and shoving them into the narrative that have no purpose, no meaning, no effect whatsoever on the timeline, on the continuum. It predicts the Gatekeeping Act. Again, Gizmodo, fuck you, because gatekeeping, you're using that as a derogatory term, but if fans didn't gatekeep, if they didn't protect what we've been loving for the past, I don't know how many decades, for certain franchises, then you would be just running, I don't know, like basically, there'd be further butchering of stories than we're already seeing right now. If fans didn't say, that is breaking the rules. We don't like that, we're not going to buy it. Because those rules are what the creators told us. So yes, we are going to fucking gatekeep, because we're going to protect what we love, Gizmodo. Act of being a fan that is built on how much you know about a thing over whether you actually enjoy that thing or not. You can know and enjoy something. We don't care if you enjoy a piece of shit in a trilogy or a piece of shit episode in a franchise or a TV show. We don't care. That's objective. That's opinion. But don't act like what you enjoy, don't act like you know everything. Prove that you know everything. Because you can prove that you know everything or know much of something and enjoy it. But if you can't demonstrate that you have some sort of knowledge about the franchise, then you're only coming from a purely emotional standpoint. Which, okay, is fine, but then don't dictate to us what we can and cannot like, which is exactly what you're telling us that we should be doing. You're telling us how we should act. You're telling us how we should form our opinions. You are doing exactly what you're accusing us of doing. Ugh. It's an attitude that in turn feeds the equally unruly and constantly growing spoiler culture because a fandom that values pure details above all else puts weight in the knowledge of those details. The need robs discussions about the stories we get of nuance and interpretation because who cares what you think happened when there's an answer from the Word of God to that question you might have had. I don't think you fucking know what canon is. Because you can have respect for canon and still discuss themes and interpretations and nuances of the films itself. Case in point, the original trilogy and the prequels. There were, yes, the established rules, the established guidelines and within the canon of those films. But guess, we're still talking about interpretations of scenes. We're still talking about the acts of the characters. We're still talking about the decisions. We're still talking about the character developments. Those are nuances, Gizmodo. We still discuss our interpretations of the stories. So yes, you can still have fucking canon and still interpret the stories. Do you fucking get it now. I don't think you do. Because if you did, you wouldn't put forth this shit and call it journalism. Oh my god. And more sinisterly, beyond the way it shapes our discourse, it's a craving that further enmeshes our love of a world, not to the world itself, but to the masters behind that world. To twist a lit crit's turn of phrase, there cannot be the death of the author if the author's got their own fandom wiki. What the fuck does that even mean? You can still, oh my god, you can still love the world and the author. It is not, they're not mutually exclusive. Or you can criticize the world and still love the author, or you can love the world and not be a fan of the author. I mean, seriously, do you have any idea what you're talking about? It is the pseudo-intellectual tripe. It is this quote-unquote education, which is really indoctrination at this point, because this tells me that this is coming from a person who was told what to think, not how to think. It's fine if you want something to matter to a world and characters you care about, but it shouldn't be the be-all, end-all to your investment in them either. Fandom is such a wide, shareable passion, full of different opinions and interpretations about a thing, united by a shared vested interest and love for storytelling, valuing the sterile facts of those stories more than the things about them that makes us think or feel is a sad thing indeed. So basically you're telling us that it's not about facts, it's about feelings and how this makes me feel. So basically, canon, where the established facts lie, doesn't matter because it's all about how I feel. And if I feel good, if I feel safe, if I feel represented, if I feel there's diversity in it, then that's all that matters. Not the established rules set forth by the creator. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. Oh my god. And yes, and the gall Matt Martin had to agree with this shit. If I were running Lucasfilm and a member of the story group did this and acted this way, I would be like, you either start respecting the canon or take your pink slip. Your choice. Because story group members should not have this attitude. They really shouldn't. It's one thing to create stories and characters and plots and themes and so forth around a certain franchise, but they still have to mesh with the canon. But anyway, those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you agree with me, or do you think that I'm reading too much into this and that maybe it is our fault and we are putting too much emphasis on canon and we should just turn our brains off and let Disney, DC, Marvel, and whatever entertainment industry is out there just run havoc all over established franchises. But let me know what you think down in the comments. And if you like this video, leave a thumbs up, share on social media if you would choose to do so. And you can catch me this weekend, this coming Saturday, on the weekly stream I have with Lethal Lightning, who, by the way, I forgot to thank at the beginning of this video for sharing the link to this article, and I will post his links to his channels in the description below, as well as his Twitch channel, because he's been streaming games on that, and we need to boost up his followers. He just reached Twitch affiliate, and he's very fun to watch. He's very knowledgeable. He gives honest takes, honest opinions, and I highly recommend you check out his channel if you have not already done so. And again, this is Mara Jade. Catch me this week on our Nerdy and Lethal live stream this Saturday, and I'll catch you all on the dark side. Take care.